Yeah, like you really have to adjust your thinking. You have to adjust your plan because, like, if your goal, oh, I don't want to be in debt, I don't want to be in debt, then you really have to
Don't
have a
become an
conversation.
entrepreneur. Hey friends, hey, welcome back to the show. It's Maekaeda here, and you are in for a treat and an awesome, vulnerable, real conversation with Maekaeda Gibbons today. So let me get right into her bio. Maekaeda Gibbons is the founder and CEO of Brown Sugar Babe, a fast-growing fragrance brand known for its natural, high-quality fragrances and body care. Dubbed the internet's favorite body oil, the brand has captivated audiences through its social virality and devoted following. For Gibbons, fragrance has always been deeply personal, first as a way to stay connected to her mother while growing up in Trinidad, and later as a source of comfort during her career as a loan officer at Bank of America, where she relied on scent to ease stress and ground herself. Frustrated by the lack of luxurious, clean fragrances, she began crafting her own oil-based blends and sugar scrubs. What started as a personal passion quickly gained traction, with friends and colleagues clamoring for her creations. Recognizing the demand, she turned her hobby into a business, officially launching Brown Sugar Babe in January 2019 with zero outside investment. Under Gibbons' leadership, Brown Sugar Babe has grown into a multi-million-dollar brand, beloved for its rich, long-lasting scents, commitment to natural ingredients, and authentic engagement with the fragrance community. As the brand expands beyond body oils, Maekaeda is set to introduce home fragrance products, a retail space, and more, further solidifying Brown Sugar Babe's place in the luxury self-care space. With an unwavering commitment to quality and innovation, she continues to position Brown Sugar Babe as a standout in the beauty industry. And guys, what I love about Brown Sugar Babe and Maekaeda's story is just how transparent she is about her numbers, about growth, about what it looks like to self-fund and what that really requires and entails. And so we just really talked for real on this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get right into it. All right. So Maekaeda, welcome to the guest chair. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me.
I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. As I was talking about before we jumped into recording, I love when I'm able to truly experience a brand before I talk to the founder. It just adds a whole new level of just appreciation for your origin story. So I know that you were not always a founder of Brown Sugar Babe. So tell us, where did the journey start for you with side hustling?
So I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've had at least 3 businesses prior to this one, and I've always kept a main job as well as doing something on the side to supplement income.
Yeah.
In 2018 is when I think I started to take my passion for this particular business seriously and really applying myself to the process. But I also kept my main gig at Bank of America.
So tell us about your road to Bank of America, because that's a very high profile company, very impressive. What was your role there, and what was your background prior to starting your fragrance brand?
Yeah, so I started initially with Bank of America in, I want to say 2005. I was an insurance agent for their home loans department. And so we wrote the insurance policies for homeowners who came on with a mortgage. After that department, I left for a little while, and then I came back in Bank of America's credit card department. And so I started kind of a trajectory from there in the financial services space in the bank. After the credit card department, I got promoted to loans. So I was a loan officer at the time that I left, and I left in 2022. But for the most part, I've always kind of dabbled, like my brain has always been in the financial space. Before that, I owned an insurance agency and, some other things. But yeah, so finance has always been my thing.
Interesting. Well, that certainly helps with starting a business. We'll get into that. But you also have this creative side, and
I
you are
do.
far too creative to just be in a cubicle in finance. So tell us how fragrance played into your corporate job while you were there, how you used it.
It was the catalyst because the job was actually, well, the job of a loan officer is very, very stressful. From dealing with the clients to, trying to make sure that you hit your goals, and all of those things. And so trying to do that, I had to find a very easy way to decompress. And one of the ways that I did that was with fragrance. And I would have, in my little cubicle, I would have like a bottle of oil or perfume or something, rub it on and I'm on a call and I would rub it into my hand, smell it. And I would immediately just kind of, unclench my jaw and, sit into my space. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
smart. Oh, that just reminds me. Literally before this interview, I was telling my husband, like, he had just made some eggs and I'm like, you gotta wash out this pot because that's not the flavor. That's not the scent vibe that I need right now in the house. Because, we work
Right.
from home. I'm like, we gotta, get that out of here. So scents and just your environment is so, so important.
Important. Yeah.
Were you making those yourself?
I was. Yeah.
You were.
So fragrance has always been a part of my story. I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, yes. Island girl.
Island girl. And so my mom left when I was like maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. And I remember her leaving articles of clothing. And it used to really soothe me to just smell her clothing while she was away, And from then, I knew fragrance was powerful.
Ooh.
And I would use her clothing to, like, if I'm upset or if I felt like it, and those are like that's getting into the formidable years, right? And so I would use her clothing to just kind of calm myself, kind of the same thing, that's kind of how my love affair with fragrance started. And it inserted itself into my life in different ways, throughout my early adulthood and things like that. But when I really needed it, that's when I started paying attention to the benefits of it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So she left to come to the US.
US, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were able to reunite later.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know we had so much in common. A similar story. My mom, when I was 6, I moved to the US for a nursing
Where are
program.
you from?
I'm from Jamaica. So born in Jamaica. Yeah. Until I was, no, she moved when I was 5. And then, we were able to all come up a year later when I was 6. So talk about sacrifice, right? That early picture of a mom, taking this big leap because she knew that future opportunities were coming. And you might not have realized it then, but it also is playing into your entrepreneurial journey to take that leap. Being able to assess when risk is worth it, when there's a lot on the line, but it's worth it.
Yeah, very cool parallel, because someone who feels safe in spaces, that could work to their detriment, where they are complacent and, that kind of vibe. But like me, I've always seen the women in my life take risk to make things happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now you have these associations with scents, which I think we all do, right? We know what someone smells like. It is comforting to have someone's shirt, for example, when you're in love with them or a family member. So you've had that connection. Now you're working in corporate space and you're using that to soothe your nervous system. When did you start to make products for other people?
So it started because obviously the scent started permeating the office.
Yes.
And so my coworkers, even like my family and friends, my shtick is I love a fragrance that has a great sillage, great performance. It throws. And so that's what was happening. And everybody would be like, I need some of that. I need some of that. And so I started making it into products that you could use in your everyday life, like sugar scrubs, body oils. We're on the body oils now because I perfected it a little bit.
Yes, you have. We'll talk about it.
but yeah, so it started where, and then it got to be so much that I was like, okay, I have to start charging for
Hmm.
this, because I was just doing it in small batches for myself to use.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of started snowballing, I started buying bigger batches and I started mixing a little bit more and so on. And that's, you know, here we are.
Here we are. And how did
Hmm.
you get into the combination, the mixing of it all, the science behind it? Because obviously you have to think about, okay, does this scent change when it's in this container? And how do
Yeah.
you start to learn all of that on your own while working a full-time job?
YouTube University.
Shout out to
uh,
YouTube.
YouTube University. I also read a lot of books. I read a lot of, industry books. I've taken a couple of courses, not like certifications or anything, but I've taken a couple of courses on how to do certain things. But the
Yes.
jump off was YouTube University.
Yes.
Yeah. And then when I started taking it seriously, I was like, okay, I need to be more official. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I always
Hmm.
love when people talk about just how much you can learn on your own and you don't need
Yeah.
permission or any certification to just learn, practice and get really good. And YouTube University being out there is amazing. And it's also funny because a lot of times people hold things to their chest, me
Hmm.
included, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like, oh, I'm working on this thing, but if I tell
Hmm.
anybody else, then they're going to do it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly, there's room for everybody and no one's going to take it as seriously as and even other people who are taking it as seriously,
Hmm.
you know
You're
what I'm trying
always
to
going to
say.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, you're always going to have your own sauce. I
Yes.
think that there is space for everyone to do
Mhm.
anything that they want. And
Yes.
I think that the way that I think of and execute something is
Mhm.
always going to be different and wonderful. Like somebody else could do the exact same thing that I'm doing. And I think my spin on it is always going to be my spin on it. So
Always
that's
going to be
why
your spin.
yeah. Hmm.
And in order for them to just live their life copying you, they would literally just have to sit up on your page, just like
Yeah.
talking to you every day, like, oh, she made this. Now let me try to make it, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
impossible for them to
Yeah.
truly recreate.
I think there are different passion levels. And so I think that my passion for what I do is going to be totally different and it's going to show in the work. So,
Yes,
yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. So as you started to sell these fragrances, when did you put up a website and start to do online orders?
So this was, I want to say April of 2019. I made the leap and I created a Shopify site. Didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to fulfill an order. I had
Yes.
to read. I had to do, in addition to my job,
Right. I was going to say you
um,
said you made the leap, but you're still at work, but you made the
yes,
leap to start
to start. Oh,
the side hustle officially and into a
correct.
business. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So I started a Shopify site. That beginning stage is really, really weird because like I'm trying to find my aesthetic and my space in that community.
Yeah.
And it took so many tries for me to say, okay, this is who we are. This
Yeah.
is how I want to present to the world. This is how I feel like the babes would receive this,
Mhm.
and it takes a while. I look back on some of our first labels and I cringe. I have a story about how it was almost launch time and I it was at Kinko's, FedEx Kinko's, and that's where I actually printed our first labels
Mhm.
from FedEx Kinko's, and they were so ugly. They were so
Were they still the brown gold
no, no, no,
colors?
no,
No.
no. It was so ugly. It was like a craft paper type of vibe.
Okay.
And I actually spent time, like the brown sugar babe that you see before you today.
Mhm.
I took some like time off and mentally like, Maekaeda, how do you want to present to the world?
Mhm.
And I crafted this thing, but I wanted to start it. I think that's the hardest part. Starting is the hardest part. And then I made it pretty.
Exactly. Starting is the hardest and then continuing to keep going is the next
Yeah.
hardest part. But I
Hmm.
saw something the other day that was like, starting is not the hardest part. I'm like, yes, it is.
It's
Because you can
hard.
really talk yourself out of it. Like, this
Yeah.
is ugly. I can't sell this. Nobody wants this. But tell me
Hmm.
something. Do you think your customers cared about that first packaging?
No, they didn't.
Just
I
wanted
don't
what
think
was
they,
inside.
yeah. And I have people that are still a part of the community now that were when I began, and they look back and they're like, "Oh my God!" Like obviously they everybody sees the transition,
Yes.
but it's like it was a leap. It was like a like ugly duckling times 10, and it turned into a swan. Like really, really, truly.
And see, I can't even picture that because I've only seen you as the swan. I encountered your brand as the
Hmm.
swan. And that's why it's important to remember and even scroll back sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Scroll back in people's Instagram because you'll
yeah.
see the
I want to
OG.
archive those.
No, archive it. It's going to inspire other people. And I mean, it doesn't,
Yeah.
what's someone going to say? Oh no, she started out with uglier packaging. I'm not buying
Oh
from
my
her.
gosh. But the product sold, the product sold, but I
Yes.
was like, the vision that I had,
Mm-hmm.
I had, I literally started this business with $300,
Yes.
$300.
Love
And
it.
I obviously didn't have the budget for the pretty things in the beginning, but
What did fulfillment look like for you? Literally doing it all yourself, or did you bring in family, loved ones?
a little bit of both. So in the beginning, it was just me. I made the product, I marketed, I fulfilled, I did everything. And it was such a rush to get like 4 orders in a week. Now we get 10,000 orders per month, plus like it's like 12, 13,000 orders per month.
What?
And
And
I
I'm
would,
about to order after this episode because, in researching the episode, I'm like, no, let me restock on this.
yeah, I think there's a video somewhere. It might be on Instagram of
Mhm.
me, like strapping in, some of the pack, like 4 boxes
Yeah,
that over a week. Cause I used to fulfill like once per week because, I had,
totally.
my job, and it was like I put the seatbelt on the 4 boxes, and I'm like driving around so proud with, it was funny.
Oh my gosh, that was like, oh, I'm doing something. Little
I'm
did
doing
you
something with these
know.
4 boxes. Yep.
Little did
Yeah.
you know. So you mentioned the marketing. What were you doing in the early days to market the business?
It was a lot of trial and error. For example, I would do a lot of shows, like pop ups. Like, I really wanted to get it into people's hands. Like, that was my main focus. Like, that was the only strategy I had, was to get it into people's hands, let them try it. And one big secret, I don't know, if you're going to ask this later, but one big thing I think a lot of founders could benefit from: make sure there is a budget to give away stuff.
Ooh.
Make sure there is a budget to give away stuff, because at the end of the day, like if you don't have a name for yourself, you're gonna have to prove to people, hey, this is something that you want. And the only way for them to do that with no risk is for you to have a budget to, yeah.
That's such a good tip. And
Hmm.
when you say, I just needed to get it into their hands, I understand you because you guys,
Hmm.
once you get one of these body oils into your hands and once you
Hmm.
smell this,
Hmm.
you're like, oh, okay. I see what's going on here.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need some more of this. Let me
yeah.
tell you, your team was so gracious enough to send me
Hmm.
some, and I didn't have the one before. What is it? Wild. Oh, why is it?
Wild card.
Wild card. I was going to say wild
Hmm.
card, but for some reason I was like, wait, is it wild card? So
Hmm.
wild card.
Hmm.
Obviously, I knew that's a bestseller. Wanted to try it. So,
Hmm.
I'm rushing every day. I'm rushing to daycare to drop off my daughter, right? Just
Hmm.
looking all types of ways. But I'm like, let me just dab on a bit of this, just make myself feel put together. I don't think much about it. I dab it
Hmm.
on, it melts in. It's nice. It's
Hmm.
like when you first smell it, it's bold, but then it doesn't
Hmm.
overpower you. So you even
Yeah.
forget you have it on.
Hmm.
So I go into daycare and they're like, oh, mom, you smell amazing. I'm like, really? Oh, wow. Thank you. And in my head, I'm like, I need about 5 more bottles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
need
it's
about 5 more
amazing.
bottles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you get it into people's hands,
Hmm.
you will immediately see the ROI of
Yes.
having given those for free.
Yes. Absolutely. Immediately.
Did you ever
immediately.
feel though, like, okay, this particular show wasn't worth it? Or how did you start to decipher what was worth your time when it came to pop-ups and fees for booths and things like that?
hmm It was a lot of trial and error. One really, and I'm not sure where you are, but like
I'm in New York City.
you're in New York City. Okay.
Yeah.
So here in Atlanta, there's this space called Pont City Market. And
Mhm.
they really pour into small businesses. And so for the summertime, they have a series of it's called Makers Market. So the year that I kind of started with that plan, I made sure that we were there as many times as possible, and there was a time too that I was selling out of my trunk. Like I was literally like carrot, like I would make the small batches and I
Mhm.
would have it in the truck. People would place their orders and I would drive it to them, meet them somewhere, pick it. So I did everything that I could possibly do to make sure it was easy for people to get the products after they heard about it but yeah.
And for product-based business owners who are listening to this, how did you measure the success of a particular market? Did you pay attention to the order volume after the event?
I did. And it would be a situation where days after they're like, hey, I need some more of this. Obviously, in the marketing process, you have your literature and, contact information, QR codes and all of that. I would kind of look at the analytics over the month that we
Yeah.
did something and then see the growth from there. But it's kind of like mushroomed after a certain point because it was like, okay, here we go. And then like we would go to these markets and then immediately after, like maybe days or, weeks after, you just kind of see the chart, like the analytics going up and up and up and up. Yeah. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about investment into the business upfront while you were side hustling before you were full time with it. Like, what did it really cost to build this business from scratch?
Whew, okay. So I mentioned earlier that this initially started with a $300 investment. After one of my paychecks from Bank of America, I paid all my bills and I had $300 left over. And I bought more raw materials than I had ever did because I wanted to start like really taking this seriously.
Mhm.
And from there, obviously, like every month I didn't have the ability to do that. So I started putting things on like my credit cards, which, everybody's financial habits are different. So I'm not here to tell anybody, but I had a couple of credit cards. My sister had a credit card. When I decided that, okay, we need to start doing ads, we need to start like improving the packaging. So we basically self-funded everything. So we didn't take any loans, we didn't take any, all of that stuff. So every dollar that we made, we reinvested it back into the business. Like I think for the first 2 years, I didn't really pay myself
Mhm.
anything. I just lived off of my salary. So
Yes.
yeah.
2 years of investment. This is really good information. So you were reinvesting into the business, and what were you starting to see on the revenue side? Were you profitable but still investing back, or
Yes,
were you still not yet seeing a profit?
the first option. So for the first 2 years, I started reinvesting, and there was a point of no return where like I maxed out all of my credit cards. And I was like, it's time to go. It's time to like really push this forward because of the potential. So just to give you an example, like the first full year of sales was 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the revenue was 6K. About 6K.
$6,000.
$6,000.
Okay.
The second year, it was
Okay.
$24,000. Third year, $300,000.
What do you attribute
And
to that leap?
so I'm going to say this, but I want the people listening to really do their work before deciding to do this. I started working with influencers in the second year. Influencer marketing is a hornet's nest of success. It could literally push you forward in a way that you're not ready for. Listening to your community and formulating based on their desires is what I did, as well as influencer marketing. When I started working with influencers, I saw a huge growth spurt. And it's still happening. And there was a point where like we would beg influencers to work with us. And now they're like beating down our door, trying to work
Nice.
with us.
Yeah. Why
So
do
I
you say
think
it's a hornet's nest of success?
because there's good and bad with everything, right? Social media is a very useful tool, but when they're for you, they're for you. But when they're against you, baby,
You going down.
you going down.
I know
You're
that's not
going
funny,
down.
but it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. Very, like I said, cautionary tale. Like it's really useful. It is really useful, but you have to be careful what you ask for. I still work with so many influencers, but it's like one person, like it's like the mob mentality. Like if something happens, like if somebody's package is messed up or something like that, it's just like, woo. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about when you started working with influencers. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were offering product, and were you asking them to review it, or were you just saying, here's some product, if you like it, share it, that kind of approach?
It was a mixture. It was a mixture of both. Like some of them reviewed it and it just kind of caught on, honestly. Like that's the virility, the viral type a vibe that happens when somebody really likes something and they have a lot of followers.
Right.
It starts, a wildfire. But it's a mixture of both where we ask them, they review it, yet good or bad. And sometimes they purchase and talk about it on their own. And it just kind of depends. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was Melissa, Mrs. Kev on stage talking about, I think, Rich Auntie. And I'm
Rich
like, oh,
Auntie.
I love the names too.
Yes,
So you're
yes.
really good at naming. So the mixture of the naming plus the scent, it makes it memorable. So to this day, I was always like, oh, I still need to buy, I need to go check out Rich Auntie, because we all relate to that, right? That's what we want to be, aspire to be the Rich Auntie.
Absolutely. And that was a part of my strategy too, being intentional about the cultural aspect of fragrance for our community. Yeah.
And when you say it can go either way, have you had an experience where someone just tried to take your brand down, or you just like have seen that happen to other people?
I wouldn't necessarily say take it down. I think negativity has a propensity to spread faster than positivity, if that makes sense.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with one person that has a very big audience saying something negative, it could spread really fast. And it's not necessarily that they're trying to take us down. I think the world today uses social media for almost everything.
Yeah.
And so that could be,
and doesn't necessarily think about the consequences.
Exactly.
But, thank goodness you're covered and you have way more support than, detractors. So let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about finances, profitability, and by the third year, you saw that leap, but you're also investing more in ads as well, right? Investing more in ads.
Yeah.
And were you paying some of your influencer campaigns?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I pay. Okay. We pay. I wanted to see if I could actually find the numbers, like the exact numbers.
Yeah. That would be cool to know. And we appreciate you sharing this.
Yeah. So year one, I stand corrected. So year one, this was 2019, total $405.92.
Wait, what was that profit?
No, that was just sales. I'm just sharing the sales numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. 2020, our total sales, $2,618.
Okay.
2021, 14,000, about 300.
Okay.
2022, $24,312. 2023, $376,700. 722, and 2024, 1,100,000, da, 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 da. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you because I don't think anyone has ever read out their numbers and shown us that progression of time, investment, and the growth that can happen with intentional marketing and strategy. And at what point did you leave your job? Just the year.
The
I'm
year,
curious.
2022.
So 2022. And that's when you saw the 300,000 year in 2023, the next year.
And let me actually do this. This post, these numbers, I apologize. It was from Black Friday.
Black Friday only.
Black Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
So I posted a trajectory. So these numbers were from every year on Black Friday.
Oh, even better. That's even cool. Like, so you did $1 million off of Black Friday.
Yes. In last year.
Nice. What?
Yes.
Looking back at the journey so far, what do you really think it has shown you as far as scrappiness and also resilience?
I think this journey solidified for me that life gets better in personal and in business. I have had my fair share of misfortune, and while you're in the middle of something, it seems so like the world is going to end. But one message that I would love to share with small business owners is keep going. Make sure that you have the right people around you to speak life into your plans and life into you. Motivation is not always going to get it. Discipline is going to take you way farther than discipline or that motivation can ever take you. Be disciplined, stick with your plan, like don't change with the winds. A lot of people told me, Maekaeda, you need to do body butters. Maekaeda, you need to do this. This was my plan. This was my plan. And I may add other things later, but I wanted to get really, really good at this thing before I pivoted to do any other products.
It is easy to start to get distracted by what's trendy, to kind of float in the wind, especially when times are hard. You're like, well, maybe if I did this, maybe if I posted more reels, maybe if I start doing this, my brand would do better. But sometimes you really just have to stick with the discipline piece of what works and have that tunnel vision, even when it's tempting to be like, well, so-and-so looks like they're being successful doing this and that. And of course you have to do competitive research, but it is a delicate balance between getting swept away by watching other people.
Yeah. And pivoting doesn't necessarily mean changing what you offer. It means pivoting the way that you think, the way that you present your product to the world, pivoting how you interact with your audience. All of those things could mean pivoting. But if you know in your heart that this is what you're supposed to be doing, stay there.
Speaking of that, how are some of the ways you prepared to leave your job at Bank of America?
One of the things, or I did quite a few things to prepare. I started saving a crazy amount of money, and I started applying for a lot of credit cards because I knew that would, being in a job would actually give me a better advantage. I started looking for health insurance and really doing budgets, and that prepared me for leaving. But all in all, it really is a leap. You really do have to leap and trust that all of your preparation is going to, give you a soft landing when you, make the switch.
You mentioned credit card and self-funding with the credit cards. Can you talk a little bit more about that and about even carrying debt? Because at times we're not used to that feeling of carrying a balance in this way. And self-funding sometimes looks like carrying things on your credit card when that's supposed to be taboo and a no-no. But sometimes that's what it takes when you're not going the traditional route and you are bootstrapping. So tell us more about that.
So I will say I really had a psychological or a physical reaction to having to spend as much as I did on my personal cards. So it was a combination of my sister, God bless her. I think she had a credit card that was like maybe a $30,000 limit. And I had some that was, I think, a total of like 25,000. And when we started having the conversation about really taking things seriously, I really had to have like physical, like therapy counseling, to really take the lead to say, I'm about to carry X amount of debt on my personal credit cards. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with it if this thing doesn't work out like I want to. So I had to really do therapy, like go to a therapist and talk to her about my fears about maxing it out. Thankfully it worked out, and like I have zero debt now, but you really, like, if you are not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you're going to have to take on some debt if you want to grow as organically, I should say, as you want to. I mean, everybody's goals are different, but for where I wanted to go, I knew I had to spend $1,000 a day on ads, like meta ads and things like that. And I didn't have that in capital. So I had to mentally, resolve with myself, okay, you're about to do this on credit cards, sis.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. This conversation is so relevant because even me, I've paused my meta ads because I'm just like, why am I putting more on my credit card?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, you have to keep spending money to make money. Like, even though it feels uncomfortable to sometimes carry over based on the line of work that I'm in. Like, I have 60 days or 30-day windows. I know revenue is coming, but it doesn't always hit monthly to when people are like, don't carry a balance. That doesn't happen in this world. So you have
and
to
your
really
score
reset.
Takes a hit, because I generally didn't carry balances because, again, I worked in a financial space. So I knew, paying off, use your credit card like a debit card. Basically, don't spend money unless you have the money to pay it off by the due date or by the cycle date, right? And so being in that space, like it was like a really like Monopoly. Like I was really plotting on my cards and really strategizing.
The plot is real. The plot is real.
Listen. And
I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna put this here. And the meta ads, I have a card that gives me Forex points for those
specifically.
ads.
Yeah. Like you really have to adjust your thinking. You have to adjust your plan because, like, if your goal, I don't want to be in debt, then you really have to have a conversation.
Become an entrepreneur.
Go get angel investors that are going to take, a percentage of your business. And that is one thing, like, I'm not very versed in how that works. So I didn't even touch it in the beginning. But because you do have to have a proof of concept, obviously. And I didn't, because this is the first time, so going into debt for your business is a real psychosis. Like it's really,
I like the way you explained that. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And, I recently met someone who actually counsels people. She is a therapist, trained as and degreed as a therapist, but then realized that she needed to teach people financial therapy. Like, she needed to provide that service because we have so much to unlock around the money, shame that comes with that, and all of those different things. So I'll try to find her name. I don't know why it's escaping me. Asia with a J. Asia Evans, yes. And her Instagram is Asia Therapy, y'all, AJA. So shout out to Asia to unpack these topics. So I really appreciate how candid you're being around the topics of money, because we all need to talk about it a little bit more, because you're not alone. You're not crazy if you have to self-fund in ways that don't always feel comfortable.
Yeah. And I think, culturally speaking, that stigma needs to have more conversation, because we're all out here clocking into a job. We're all out here doing things for money. Why aren't we talking about it more? Like, if you don't have any, let's talk about how to get some. Let's talk about how to pivot your life, pivot your thinking. And I know there's things out there but I think that shame needs to go away, because, like, I'm not about to wave a flag with how much money I have in the bank, but I do want to have the appropriate conversations about how do I get out of where I am if I'm not happy
Yeah.
financially. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And how do
Yeah.
we move through uncomfortable seasons? Because, you know, something I have to realize is these corporations, even the US government, right,
It's in debt.
they treat debt like it don't exist.
Right.
And not to
So who
say
am I? Right.
but not to say that we should do that,
Right.
but
Hmm.
who am I to look at it like I always have to have a zero balance when I am building something too? Like
Yeah.
I'm the Amazon. Myself alone, I am doing it. You
Absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
so why do I have
Hmm.
different expectations from
Hmm.
the companies who've done it times for centuries? This is
Yeah.
a Netflix. Everybody,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
has started earnings report not
Hmm.
profitable, not profitable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and it's
Yeah.
not to say your business is always like that or guys that my business is always like that, but there are seasons.
Hmm.
Like I said, if I'm over indexing on monetization models that involve cyclical payments where,
Hmm.
you know, these things, it feels uncomfortable for me.
This is a part of the process. That's how we
Yeah.
need to look at it. This
Yeah.
is a part of the growth strategy. This is a part because, like the first time I paid a $50,000 invoice, I had to go lay down.
Oh,
I had to go,
yes.
I had to
Or
go lay
talk
down.
about when you pay taxes. You gotta go lay
Yes, yes,
down.
yes, yes, yes. You have to go
Yeah.
lay down. And again, that my therapist said, if that's what you need to do, go do it. Do what you have to do to
Yeah.
get through what has to happen.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think we should shy away from money talks, especially
Mhm.
if you are wanting to elevate yourself or your
Yes.
brand, to another
Well,
level.
I'll find a way to do more of those talks, you guys, but we're going to shift off of this. But yes, you know, this has been incredible. I'm learning. I'm being poured into by talking to you. So thank you so much,
Oh,
Maekaeda.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Before we go into the lightning round, I'd love to talk a little bit about more of your secret sauce, right? So something I love about your fragrances, you always say like, this has notes of this. This reminds you of this scent. When did you start doing that aspect of it? And why did you start to do that when you're like, okay, this will remind you of, and I don't speak French. I don't know how to say the fancy stuff, but yes, the like wild
So,
card is
mhm.
reminiscent of what's it
Baccarat
called?
Rouge.
Baccarat
Baccarat
Rouge.
Rouge
Okay.
540.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that goes back to earlier in our conversation. I talked about listening to the community, right?
Hmm.
And being an online retailer, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to
No.
do what people know, but add my own spin, make it better, however you want to, put that.
Yeah.
Being an online retailer, you have to be very descriptive about fragrances because, I mean, that's the whole point, right? People want to know what they're buying, what it's going to smell like, and I always try to amplify the notes that people love in the popular perfumes,
Yes.
so that it lasts longer. It's
Yes.
more, it's stronger, it smells stronger, it lasts longer on your skin, so on and so
Yeah.
on and so on. So how I got there was by listening to our community. We have a Facebook group with about 20,000 members,
Very
and
smart.
listening to them is a crucial part of our success.
Ooh, I love that. Having a
Mhm.
Facebook group. At what point in your journey did you start that? Was that from the first year?
That was probably year 2 or year
Year
3,
two.
maybe.
And
Yeah,
then,
don't quote me, but yeah. Hmm.
okay, I love
Hmm.
that. I remember, so you guys, I went to Essence Fest in
Hmm.
2024 and there was one day, well, every day when you walked onto the floor with all the exhibitors and brands
Hmm.
where it just smelled incredible. I'm like, where is that coming from? And lo and behold, I see this long, winding line with, by the way, the most beautifully designed bag. So I wanted a bag, and that's how people are at Essence Fest. Like, you want the
Yes,
bag,
they
but
come
then
for the bag.
they
Yeah,
come for the bag. Look, people are
yeah,
intense about those bags. I
yes.
cannot hang. I'm like, can I buy the bag somewhere? I cannot hang. But anyway, I digress. Your bags are beautiful and you had that place smelling incredible. What was your
Thank
approach
you.
when you went into exhibiting at Essence Fest?
We actually had a commercial grade diffuser. in our booth.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we put like, and we changed it out throughout the 3 days. Yeah. 3 days that we were there.
Ooh.
So that was like an automatic,
Yeah. That was a cheat
attraction for everyone.
code. Yes.
Yeah. That was a
Yes.
cheat code. Yes. Hmm. Yeah.
I love that. And then I noticed those are sold out. Are they coming back, the diffusers?
They are. They
Okay.
are. So we have we were working on some of them right now as far as like the oils,
Yeah.
but like once we launched it, it zapped, and then I'm trying to work with our supplier, but the tariffs really
Okay.
stunted my ability to, because it would have not been profitable for us to restock when it went out of
Right.
stock. Because it's a new product, I tried to estimate how I thought it would have gone,
Yeah.
but as per usual, it's sold out. But I'm working on it right now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
speaking of tariffs,
Mhm.
what's your approach right now? How are you thinking about it? Like, is it something you're like, we're just going to have to eat this again? Maybe, the margins will be slimmer, but we hope that it will get
Mhm.
better in the future. Like, how are business owners thinking about this?
So I had some forethought last year, and I
Yeah.
stocked up on a lot of the packaging, because mainly what's being affected is our packaging.
Okay.
And so we bought a whole lot of it last year. My desire is not to increase our prices,
Hmm.
but I think at some point, if it continues to go up and down like it has, we may have to bump a little bit.
Hmm.
However, I think there was an announcement like a couple of days ago that he brought it back down, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm trying to do everything that I can right now to like, purchase as much as I can, that stock up on a lot of things that we get from there. So it's affected us already, because there were things that were on the way. And when it got to the US, they held it hostage,
Oh,
and, requested additional payments, before it got delivered. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, I don't even want to say this is the cost of doing business, because it's not, but
it's
I want
not.
to serve. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to serve my people. So we
Yes.
have to kind of
Bring
roll with the
those
punches.
diffusers back, girl.
Yes, 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 yes.
I want my home smelling like that. The whole essence floor smelled. So you gotta tell me
It's
exactly what
coming
you
back.
use. We'll talk offline. I'm like, tell me
Yeah, 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 yeah.
which one that was. All right. So now we're gonna jump into the lightning round. You just
Mhm.
answer the very first thing that comes to mind. You ready?
I am.
What is a top resource, not Google or YouTube, that is helping you in your business these days that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience?
Shopify. For product-based businesses,
Yeah.
Shopify is a monster of a resource.
Yes. Ding, ding,
Hmm.
ding.
Hmm.
Shopify. It is it, y'all. Like,
Yeah,
what else? I don't know what else y'all using. It's Shopify. All right.
yeah.
Number two, who is a non-celebrity, if possible, Black woman entrepreneur who you admire and would want to trade places with for a day just to get some insights on how they're doing their stuff?
I don't know if she's an entrepreneur, but the business mind of Melanie Hobson. I would love to just sit at her feet and just glean. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Hmm.
I need to reach out to her. I selfishly like to hear what y'all say.
Yes.
Um, number three, what is a non-negotiable part of your day these days?
Working out.
When do you squeeze it in? Is it a morning thing?
Morning. If I don't do it in the morning, it's not going to happen. So
Yes.
I wake up at like 4 a.m.
Nice.
and I get to the gym by no, I wake up at 4, leave at 5, and I'm there by 6, out by 7.
Do you have like a personal trainer or you just do your
I
thing?
do.
Ooh,
I do
nice.
have a personal trainer. Yeah. Hmm.
Speaking of that, now, what is a personal trait that you think has really contributed to your success?
I am very disciplined.
I can see that. I can see that.
I am a very disciplined person. Like I don't waver.
Mhm.
When I know, to do right, I do right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, motivated me to just do some things different. I love having these conversations because it really truly does keep me going. And I know you guys listening and watching, it keeps you going as well. And then finally, last question. What is your parting advice for fellow women business owners who want to be their own boss, take it full time, but are afraid of leaving that steady paycheck?
Okay. Preparation. Front load all of your plans with preparation. Research is a part of preparation. Do your homework. Be a student of your business. Learn everything that you can about your business before you start. I know that sounds like an oxymoron because obviously you can't learn everything, but do as much as you can to understand how your competitors work, how your industry works, get involved with, trade organizations, things like that. You'd be surprised at how much you learn by just being a part of these organizations and their email blasts and things like that. So.
No, that's really pertinent advice. So thank you for sharing that. And, before we wrap up, I'll let you tell everyone where they can connect with you. I just want to add a caveat in. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Now, please do not blame us for your credit card debt. Please do not go out here doing anything wild. Okay. Take everything in context and just understand that we're saying to build your business strategically. And if you recognize emotional barriers that are holding you back, do what you can to talk to someone and to work through those so you are not your own bottleneck holding yourself back.
Absolutely.
All right? Because it does take time, effort, and resources and capital to grow. And with that, Maekaeda, where can people connect with you and Brown Sugar Babe after this episode?
We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Brown without the O, so BRWN Sugar Babe on all platforms.
All right. And there you have it. This has been amazing. You guys, this is my new best kept secret. That's keeping me smelling so good. That's making not all the moms at daycare, making them say, oh, that mom's always smelling great. And now you know it as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Go out and get you some Brown Sugar Babe body oil. And with that, I'll talk to you next week. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.